Hi, welcome to Slumber Party. We have with us today the illustrious winners of the Rosebud Awards. In the center here we have producer Eugene, but you can call him Gene. To his right, my left, DJ Renegade, and on the other side, Kenneth. Mm-hmm. And I believe we're going to see a clip from Voices Against Violence, which is your piece that won.
By the time this broadcast is over, odds are at least 2 more children will be hurt or killed by a bullet.
Great. Well, thank you very much for bringing that with you. And can you tell us a bit about it? It seems a little macabre.
It's macabre.
Topical?
It's just sad.
It is sad.
Yeah. It is, but the project came about through a conversation that the 3 of us had about what we could do as artists to speak out against violence, to speak out against all the craziness that's taking place in Washington specifically, but around the country. We sat down, first Kenny and I, who had done a piece here at ACT called Black and Blue and Still Rising, had a conversation about doing something, and he said, why don't we get together with some other folks? We got together with DJ Renegade. The 3 of us started plotting out what would become Voices Against Violence. Took us about 2 years to put the project together. We brought in some young rappers, some other poets from town, and through a long process of making this thing a reality.
And it started with Requiem for Little Sonny?
Actually, all the poems were pretty much written at the same time by either Kenneth or DJ Renegade, or actually we had three other poets, Tony Blackman, Brian Gilmore, and am I missing someone?
No, that's it.
Who did Act Like You Know?
Right.
Who did that one?
Timbuktu did the rap.
That was great. Remind me of the Last Poets. It was just one of these like in-your-face poems. Yeah.
So the stuff was written all at one time. Requiem wasn't written before any of the other pieces. It was the first piece that was completed.
Right.
And last year we entered that in the Rosebud and got a what did we get? We didn't get
we were nominated.
Prize, but we got a
nomination.
Yeah.
The Samuel Jackson Award, I guess.
Right.
So then you put
something like that.
You added to it, and this year you actually cleaned up and won.
Well, we didn't add to it. The other pieces were works in progress, but they just weren't ready to be seen by anyone.
Right. Now, what do you do? I mean, I guess I'm cynical. I mean, how do you get this piece to somewhere where it'll do some good? I mean, where can you show it?
Well, maybe I'll let Joe, DJ Renegade, speak a little about that.
Kenneth and I are both working a program called Writers Corps, which is part of AmeriCorps, the National Service Program.
Right.
And what we do is, or what I do, he's actually the coordinator for DC. And what I do is I teach writing workshops in traditionally underserved populations. Among those are like mental institutions and prisons and schools in inner city neighborhoods. And I work at Ballou High School, which is in Anacostia. So in my work with the students, one of the things that I do is I show them Voices Against Violence and have them write either exercises or poems or just reviews so that not only do they view it, but they're engaged critically. They have to engage in some kind of analysis about it. So that's one of the ways that we do it. And also, Gene has made the film available with a study guide for teachers to use in the schools.
And
Also, I want to add that some of the sites that we've used it on, of course, the DC Public Schools, we also use it at Latin American Youth Center in Adams Morgan. We also use it at the Oak Hill Detention Center, at the Correctional Treatment Facility at DC Jail. So there are a lot of places where people are who need to get this message about finding alternatives to violence that the video is being shown.
How do you find the kids in schools and detention centers react to it?
They react very strongly to it. I think they can relate to it. They're speaking in their languages about them. They see places that they know, and in some cases, people that they know, because Poor Excuses, the rap group that's featured in there, is from Anacostia. So some of the kids know them. They see them around the neighborhood. So,
Yeah, I think another thing, the way it was shot and edited, a lot of the sequences are very much edited like music videos. So they're attuned to paying attention in that way.
right.
But if they're exposed to one violent Voices Against Violence and 100 gangster rap videos, I mean, to me the avalanche is really.
Yeah, we didn't
roll
really
over
think
you
that
guys.
this one particular piece would make any
No, I don't
big
I didn't
difference.
mean
But
that.
what it does, I think, is at least makes them think about
Right.
you know, their
alternative.
acts and about violence in a different way.
Surely there's an immediacy too, because exactly what you're saying. It's familiar. It's people they know. It's places they've been. There's also, one of you guys sitting there encouraging them then to speak back, whereas a gangster rap video is something that's inaccessible and maybe something to aspire to.
Also,
Yeah.
I think the whole idea of a gangster rap video influencing these kids, I think, is way overhyped. These kids see real violence every day.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
So they understand that like a gangster rap video is somebody pretending to be something. That has a lot less. A gangster rap video has a lot less impact on them than the actual things they see and people that they know. And the difference with this is that most of the poems deal with the emotional impacts of violence on the people who are left behind.
Right, the women, the mothers, right.
And also the male friends. So that engages them in an entirely different area.
Right.
Because now
yeah.
they have to think about
I
the
agree. I think that's the
consequences.
important thing because I think in this video and Joel Bears is out in the classroom he works in, that a lot of these kids have already been affected by this violence. They've
Imagine all
lost
of them,
people,
I
they've
imagine.
lost a friend. So I think they understand, I think at some level, all the kids, even the kids really involved in it, the sort of pointlessness of the violence. I think it helps when somebody comes by and affirms what you already believe.
Yeah.
I think that's what this project does.
Now, have you thought about taking it out of DC, around the country?
Actually, I've had some requests for some places in the Southwest and the West Coast, and there's a distributor from the West Coast looking at the piece. So I think the piece has, an enormous amount of potential to be used in the classroom and with children because, again, when we sat down and we conceived this thing, we wanted it to speak directly to children. We wanted it to be something that, if nobody else got, that young folks would get and take heed to the message. And I think that, children around the country are suffering from the same sort of ills as
Right.
the children here in D.C., so...
It's so odd. There's a certain time in a child's life. You go everywhere all day and you see a child of 6 and 7 and even 8, and they're full of hope and they're happy and everything looks good to them. And then you see them again a couple of years later, and they got the look already. It's like somebody sneaks them off to violence and hopelessness camp, and then sneaks them back into town, just in the space of a year or two, and suddenly you can't talk to them anymore. You can't smile at them anymore. You can't, show them any affection anymore. It's the strangest thing, but this thing, to work has got to get to them before that camp.
Tony Blackman poems deals with that specifically. It deals with the hardening of the soul, how these children become so, just...
And you.
Stepping over bodies.
Yeah.
But part of that is just the survival, though. I mean, the streets are a rough place, and you have to be rough in order to survive, and it's just part of the process. Once you come into adolescence, which is a time where people are particularly trying to establish some type of identity,
Yeah.
and their place on the social pecking order, that just becomes an issue. It starts off with fighting, and then it escalates from there.
Now, you three all grew up in DC?
No.
No.
None of you grew up in
No,
DC?
I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And I'm the DC native.
Right.
You are a DC native.
He brings the hometown flavor.
But see, I think going back to what you were saying, I think there's some validity in that with some kids, but I think also in showing this to guys in jail who were like people with sometimes long records, and to the youth at Oak Hill Detention Center, I just know, and getting the responses back from our writers who've used the video, that they've been able to reach these people in a way that many of us probably would have thought, you can't reach these guys, you can't touch them with. But I mean, they've talked about sort of the emotional impact the video has had on the people in the program, and then looking at the stuff that they write after seeing the video, kind of confirmed that they can still be reached, and that I think we have to continue the process of trying to reach them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the video, because it it has that range, is able to still touch them.
Oh yeah.
So, Kenneth, why do you think that you escaped from that cycle yourself, and instead you're trying to yank people out of it?
Well, I think the arts were a big part of that. I think the one thing about kids who are in an economically depressed area is that the world tends to be a very small place, and that what we're hoping to do with the Writers Corps program is to widen the world for these kids, to let them know that it extends beyond the few blocks that they're in. And so if that means exposing them to arts, to literature, to something they can relate to. Renegade can tell you in his program how he uses the video to move from the pieces that they have on the screen to introducing William Carlos Williams or the literature of Shakespeare, but to be able to use that in conjunction with this, and it widens the world. You're not the only one in the world who are suffering, or you're not the only one in the world who's happy about certain things. I think that's important.
Yeah.
It was for me.
Make you feel more normal.
Exactly, right.
It's part of something. Yeah, it's true.
How are you funded, the AmeriCorps? And
Well, originally, a lot of the funding came out of my pocket. You're talking about AmeriCorps
Well,
or
the
how
videos-
the video?
both things. I mean, I hope that you're being reimbursed for the money that you spent on the video as you take it around.
Slowly but surely, I'm recouping
Very
some of the
slowly. But, I mean,
money
is
that
that-
I've spent on the project.
Is the government investing in something like this Writers Corps program,
Yes.
whereby we're trying to get people to
Right.
before
Well,
they
Writers Corps comes
become
out as
broken?
part of the National Endowment on the Arts and the National Service Corporation, which was Clinton's National Service Corps initiative. So they're funding part of the program in conjunction with private corporations. But for a project like the kind of project that Gene's doing, we're seeing individual artists go in and do these projects. I mean, when he started this was all straight out of his pocket. There was, we were able to get money in as we went along, but we had to start it and do it and hope that the money would come in.
Now you have a piece that you wanted to do for us. This is
Yeah, the piece that we talked about,
the
Requiem
first
for
piece
Little
that
Sonny.
was completely
Right.
finished. And Little Sonny is actually somebody who was on the streets of DC.
No, Little Sonny is a sort of composite for me of people who were on the street. And it really, I'd done a series of poems, one that we filmed here in Arlington with Gene a few years ago that was called Blues for Little Sonny. And I did a series of poems following the life of a drug dealer. And so I did Blues for Little Sonny and Requiem for Little Sonny. I have actually a couple more pieces in the series. All right.
Alrighty. Are we ready?
They asked, hopefully. Expectantly.
Alright, let's do it. Can you see the video?
Little Sonny had big eyes that captured the world and spun fantastic dreams in his head. His smile was as smooth as his satin walk. The avenue was a royal carpet beneath his feet. Sonny would kick it at the go-go. When he wasn't slinging them rocks, he would dance trance-like in the flashing lights of some dangerous nightclub. He thought he would live forever, thought life would be one long groove, funky and rhythmic like an EU jam. The bullets came COD, stopped all that. They laid him to rest upon the sound of a choir singing, his mother moaning, his girlfriend sobbing, and the city raging. Racism was a deep shadow in Sonny's smile. He learned to dance in the darkness, blindly searching for himself in lying mirrors, reflections illuminated by nigger dreams and funky music. Sonny knew nothing about Oliver North or CIA flights. All Sonny knew was that the guns and the drugs were there, and he used them to finance the dreams he conjured in the jagged shadows. Sonny wanted to dance freely in the sunlight and tried to get his, but he got done never knowing his country or himself. But he knew his assailant, turned to face him in time to see his own reflection, exacting vicious revenge. The 9mm played a staccato rhythm of deadly bullets. I met Little Sonny here in the minefields of the American soul, a dangerous place for dancers or toddlers or anybody groping for manhood and definition. I met him too late to save him with poems or tales of Malcolm's triumphant spirit. Face down, wading in his own blood, and lifeless is how I met your Little Sonny. Goodbye, Little Sonny. I wish you good poems and good music. I wish you endless peace and dances and brightest sunshines. I wish you eternal funky jams and mirrors that do not lie.
Great poem, huh?
Yeah, great.
I would think if heaven gives us anything, it's mirrors that keep on lying.
Right.
So what happens next? Do you have another project lined up?
Yeah, well, right now we're actually trying to finish up with some things with this project. We've got a few more engagements where we're going to be visiting some correctional institutions to present the piece as well as some of their literature. And then I've got a documentary that I'm working on that I've been in research and development on for the last 8-9 months, and hope to start shooting in August.
Is it about somebody?
About somebody? About a whole bunch of somebody. No, actually, it's about the word nigger. It's about the word nigger in the.
That's going to be a big.
It's a big project.
Right.
It's a huge project. Yeah.
The research end of it is really big.
Yeah, we've, like I said, the last 8-9 months just been doing serious research, and hopefully I'll be shooting by the end of August. Yeah.
And what do you do with the? You were saying you frequently ask people to respond to Voices Against Violence that they write themselves, things like that. Have you thought about compiling any of the reactions to it?
Not actually, although that might be something that we'll consider. But actually, the writing is more designed to get them to engage it on a critical level, to engage in some type of analysis, and to make sure that it penetrates beyond just them sitting there watching it.
Right.
So actually, that would be kind of difficult. I work with a lot of kids at Ballou, but it may be something that I'll keep in mind in the future.
Be great. Make a great part of the marketing package.
Right.
The critics.
Right.
Yeah. It's so hard though that we have to think in terms of how to market it. But what you were saying before
Where's
about
it going if you don't?
the idea of the kids watching videos, that's really, that's that's their attention span. That's the sort of thing that you need to present to them.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think there are so many television programs out there that are designed for them that really don't reach them because the people who are making them aren't in touch with them, so they really don't know what it is that makes these kids tick and how to keep their attention. And that was important through this piece. I mean, I went through and re-edited this thing probably 4 or 5 times before I got to a point where I thought, okay, well, this is something that I'll be able to keep an audience with, especially a young audience.
Right.
And I want to do the same sort of thing with this documentary I'm working on, because in documentaries especially, there isn't a huge documentary audience out there, and amongst young folks and young black folks, there's pretty much no audience. But I hope with this project I'll be able to put something together that will retain them, that will make them want to watch. And I think just the subject matter alone will get people there. The key is to keep them there, to keep them watching, and I hope that I can do that with this piece.
Well, there's an institutional audience. I mean, schools, and of course, corrections institutions, things like that, where that they're going to need stuff like this. But I would think something like the new documentary that should be seen like everywhere, all schools. I mean,
It
it's
should.
fascinating.
It should.
Some people just won't want to deal with the subject matter.
Why?
Controversial.
Because of all the anger and all the pain that goes along with the word itself and how.
You know what Lenny Bruce
in
used to
America,
say, right?
in
Lenny
America-
Bruce used to say we should go out and say nigger, 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 nigger all the time. Use it 500 times a day. Because he said after 3 or 4 weeks, it wouldn't matter if anybody said it. It
Well,
wouldn't have any
I don't know if that's true or
power
not,
in it,
though.
you know?
Yeah. It's the single most
I
loaded
think it
term
is
in
true to
American
some
language.
extent. Young Black America is using the word just like that, and amongst them and how they use it, the word it doesn't
lost its
matter.
impact.
It's lost its power, but if I went out there and said
actually
it,
no,
would-
because there's historical precedent for that. I mean, it's never really had that kind of impact among those people. But that doesn't change. I mean, you could take one of those kids that uses that word every day just like that, and if you put them on a street corner in Alexandria and have a person of a different race come by and call them that, it's still going to
outside
have
of the
that.
group.
Yeah, it's still a different context.
Do you think you're reaching these kids young enough? I mean, this is what concerns me. I taught briefly in junior high school, and
Well, I think like Kenny said, I mean, we have
really,
guys in prison that react to this thing very positively, who see something and get something good out of it, and through their writings we can see that they've changed. So I mean, I don't think it's never too late. It's never too late.
You're going to do your little reading thing?
Oh, yeah, there's a poem that I have. Still Life. Still Life, a sketch in chalk on asphalt. Muggy August was in the house, so I was taking a night walk. And as I rolled around the corner where the 7-Eleven sits, the rotating red hand of an ambulance slapped me with the sight of a young boy shot in the street. As silence chilled in the night air, his girl sat on the sidewalk's edge, cradling his limpness in her desperation. Her fingers were wet with his fleeing soul. His name hung crookedly on her lips. And as I tried to close my eyes, I was soaked in the sound of red as it rained. And that's also one of the poems from
the video.
It's hard to find snappy ways back to do.
Amazing how graphic their poems are, and that's it's immediately when I met Ken. I mean, his work is both of their works are incredible, and I thought to myself, I've got to provide access for these guys. I've got to help them tell their stories through me.
Well, it's beautiful and it's accessible and it's not needlessly nasty or graphic. I mean, frequently I find myself recoiling just from usage of words, which I guess you'll address in nigger, but something like that is just beautiful on its own, regardless of what you're talking about and the double impact of the message.
I think it's important in Voices Against Violence. I mean, that's a good thing about working with Gene. I mean, you work with people trying to, it's like, how do you work an image to like some poetry, especially when the poets themselves are trying to work images. So how do you work images that often aren't redundant or just syrupy, but that really like have impact, the images themselves?
Yeah,
and you can watch Voices Against Violence with no poetry, just without sound, and still get the same impact.
Right.
Because I think the images were carefully chosen. We had talked about that earlier.
Right. They engage you on different levels.
Just
The way,
little Sonny. I mean, that boy's face.
Yeah, exactly.
He looks like he's about
Sonny.
8.
Right.
I mean, nobody really just want to make pattern. It's so tragic.
Right, exactly. It's a really a nice mesh of the images from the producer and the imagery from the poets, and that's why I say it really acts almost like music video. It enhances what's being said.
Actually, I think as an artist, my goal is always to try to tell the truth as beautifully as possible, and I think that's the same kind of aesthetic that
And
they
even
work
the
on.
ugly truth.
Yeah, there are some truths that don't really resolve themselves with beautiful solutions.
Right.
Well, listen, you guys, best of luck with all of this stuff.
Thank
I think
you.
we're
Thank
going
you.
to
Thanks
go
for
out
having us.
with another clip from Voices Against Violence, and really good luck to you all.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will. I go to the movies and I go downtown. Somebody keeps telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother. And I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Whoa, there've been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
I walk the land again, trying to heal a heart shattered like the night. I walk the land, hoping to hear voices raised against the carnage, voices delivering new words of near or distant hope. I walk the land, listening for visions of change.